I'm so glad to see so many faces here. I actually can't see them, but I know you're out there. This is the first of the 2014 speaker series, and we're thrilled to have Pablos Holman join us. You'll hear a little bit more about him in a minute. But we really want to do these speaker series so that we really connect you to the outside world that is ever expanding. You guys are in a generation like no others of what's happening out there and the speed of information and the speed of technology. And it's so great to have somebody kick off our year like Pablos, who's really at the heart of all of that. So I'm so glad. I know that a lot of us end up getting kind of in our little shell here. I know that because I see some sleeping bags every once in a while of people that don't want to leave, people that trip alarms. So we know that happens. So we really need to look to the outside to see what's happening. So I want to introduce right now Hindi Marciniak from The Pulse, who is sponsoring today's event. Hindi?
Thank you very much. All right. The pizza okay? Everybody like it? Okay, good. So first of all, thank you all for coming today. You're an amazing group of creative and innovative minds. We bring speakers and guests to further enrich your experience here at Cogswell, and I'm sure today's guest will certainly do that. Pablos Holman, who is known as a futurist, inventor, and notorious hacker, is here. And I hope you all enjoy and are inspired by him and leave here seeing yourselves as futurists as well. And as a thank you, we want you to continue to use Eventbrite for all of these events. It helps us make sure we have enough pizza and enough seats and encourage future participation. I would like for you all to look under your seats. We're pulling an Oprah. Feel under your seats for a piece of paper. Look under your seat. Hold it up if you have one.
Free gum. Gum. Slightly cheap.
All right, what does yours say? You get a sweater, sweatshirt. Whoop! Sweatshirt. All right. You can exchange it for a size that you'd like if it's not the right one. All right, what else do we have? Who else? Right there, what do you have? Another sweatshirt. And then over here we have GameStop cards. All right. So if we do more stuff like this, you guys will come, right? Pizza, prizes, guest speakers. All right. Well, no. Next time it might be a raffle. I don't know. Next time might be birth dates. You never know. So don't check under your seat. All right. So right now I'm going to introduce Pablos Holman. Pablos Holman.
Thank you. Okay, so I've got about 10 hours worth of stuff to talk to you guys about. I'm unbelievably excited to talk to you. I'm going to try and do it in 1 hour. I have a really weird career where I don't have to do any actual hard work. I just get to work on fun, futuristic projects. I want to tell you a little bit about that because I think it's important. And I'm going to show you some of the things I work on, and then hopefully along the way we'll make some important points. Do I have any other hackers in the room today? All right, we got a couple. So the rest of them won't admit it, so that's okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about hackers. But first thing, I think, to sort of understand what's going on in the world, since we're all still kind of young, there weren't very many people on the planet for like the entire history of the planet up until very recently. And now there's a lot of them. I mean, a whole lot. And if there's one thing that humans are good for, it's making lots more problems. And what we got to do is invent solutions to those problems, right? And that's how come we have so many people. We actually invented solutions to all the problems that kept people from flourishing all this time, right? We invented solutions to disease and the economics of staying alive and all that stuff. And now lots of people can live. How well is debatable, but they do create problems. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is more important than anything technical. It's about how do we do that. So this is like the hotel room I'm staying in. I'm going to walk you through a couple of things about hackers. That TV is the only even remotely interesting thing going on in the hotel room. And it's only interesting because that's actually not like the TV in your house. That's a TV that's a node on a network. It's connected to all the other TVs in the hotel. And if I plug this USB infrared transceiver into my laptop, I can send codes to the TV that it's not expecting. So, I can watch movies for free, which is, or maybe play games, whatever. But I can not only do that for my TV in my hotel room, I can control your TV in your hotel room because it's a node on a network. So I can watch you check out and watch you put in your credit card number. If there's a keyboard hooked up for surfing the web, I can watch you, surfing the web, logging into your bank account. I like this. Did you think it was going to be secure? Funds transfer. People are doing really retarded stuff on their hotel TVs. Really big funds transfers. Sometimes people get bored in their hotel. You never know. This is a project called the HackerBot where I was trying to work on showing how insecure wireless networks were. And so I would sit there with my laptop and crack the encryption on Wi-Fi, and nobody cared. So we made this robot which could drive around and find Wi-Fi users and show them their passwords on the screen, which I thought was really fun and entertaining. And what's actually interesting about this is, computer hackers are constantly waving arms, trying to say the sky is falling, and nobody pays any attention to us. But the robot was very mediagenic, and so everybody wanted to put that thing on TV. And so we got a whole lot more attention for the security problems by contextualizing them as a robot instead of a computer nerd with a black t-shirt and a laptop. This is a project I worked on with Ben Laurie, who's another sort of well-known computer hacker. We put a computer in each room of a conference, and this was on 3 floors of a hotel, called the Computers, Freedom, and Privacy Conference. And that's just an event where people get together to talk about those things. So I put a computer in each room, and it would just log all the Bluetooth traffic. So as people walked near it with their phones or their laptops or whatever, it would just put that in a database. I could correlate them to print out a map like this for each person at the conference. We could do that. We could do the exact same thing in this school. So this is the map for Kim Cameron, the chief privacy architect at Microsoft. Unbeknownst to him, I know he went to this session for 15 minutes, got bored, went downstairs, took a leak, came back up, hung out. I can correlate this to all the other people and figure out who his friends are, who he hangs out with, right? So this is an unintended side effect of Bluetooth in your phone, right? That's not why we put Bluetooth in the phone. Turns out it's just one of the things you can do with Bluetooth in the phone. You could do the same thing with Wi-Fi or GSM or the RFIDs that are in your credit cards and passports and things, right? So this is okay. The sky is not necessarily falling. This is how we get new ideas, right? This is Sammy, an old buddy of mine who was trying to meet chicks on MySpace. Anybody here ever use MySpace? No, your grandparents were on MySpace. It's kind of like Facebook for your grandparents. They're probably still on MySpace. I don't know. Anyway, Sammy was not having good luck. So what he did is he put some code on his profile so that whenever you look at his page, it would just automatically add you as Sammy's friend and skip the whole "is Sammy really your friend" protocol. And then it would change your page to say that Sammy is my hero. So, and the last thing it did is it would copy the code to your page too, so that whenever anybody looked at your page, it would add them as Sammy's friend as well. So in under 24 hours, Sammy went from 0 friends on MySpace to over 1 million. And they had to shut down MySpace, and Sammy had to serve 3 years probation. He wasn't allowed to use a computer, but now he's back. So you guys use these map programs? Sammy figured out that the way Google knows what color to paint the roads for traffic is because Android phones and iPhones report to Google what they're doing. So Sammy figured out how to just spoof that so he can lie to Google Maps. So when Sammy's driving around, all the roads he drives on turn black and people get out of his way. This is Abad, another hacker, who was trying to meet girls on the internet having spotty results. And so what he did is he took profiles of girls he dated and liked, fed them into a spam filter as legitimate email, profiles of girls he dated and did not like and fed them in as spam, which trains the artificial intelligence in your spam filter. And then he could run it against every profile on the internet and outspits girls he might like to date. Right? Much better than sorting spam. I mean, why use Match.com when there could be like, I mean, you guys could probably make a startup that does spam dating, right? This is really important. Okay, why? So the reason I'm telling you about these guys, I don't care that things are insecure. Hopefully you're convinced of that. What I care about is that they think differently than almost everybody you know, right? If you get a new gadget and show it to your mom, and she might ask you, well, what does this do? Mom, it's an iPhone. iPhone, it's a phone. She'll get it. If you give a new gadget to Abad or Sammy, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to break it into a lot of little pieces. They're going to take all the screws out. And then they're going to figure out what they can build from all that junk, right? And that discovery process of figuring out what's possible is fundamental to invention. It's fundamental to innovation. Without that, you don't get any new technologies. You don't get any new toys or new gadgets. You don't get that from people who read the directions. You get that from people who try everything that you're not supposed to do, right? These guys are really important. And I think, we've wasted a lot of them by putting them in the computer security department configuring firewalls. But what I want you to do is figure out, A, am I one of those guys? It's okay if you're not. B, if you know one of those guys, try to help steer them towards using their brain for what it's good for, which is discovering what's possible. And it's okay if they make a little mess along the way. I'm okay with that. Any of you guys use keys like this to get into your parents' car? Bloop. So these things are kind of interesting. You could take one, drive through the parking lot at Walmart, click open, 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 bloop. Eventually, you'll find another car that looks kind of like yours, maybe a different color, but it has the same code. And your key works. Which is a bizarre thing because all it is sending a giant random number. And those are pretty much free. You can have all the free random numbers you want. Just send me email, I will send you unlimited random numbers. But the auto industry hasn't figured that out yet, right? They're still reusing the codes like they used to do on metal keys. For one manufacturer, we figured out how we can manipulate the key to open every car from that manufacturer. Right? Which is a weird thing. These are car companies, and what they haven't figured out is that they don't make cars anymore. What they make is an iPhone on wheels, right? That's what's going on. A car used to be the sort of thing where every component was second sourced and nobody was going to add risk to their shipping date. And they could, always make a car. Well, now they have a PC inside. In fact, they have about 30 computers in every car. Lots of cars have 70 or more computers in them, right? And when you put a computer in something, it inherits all the problems that computers have. What's in there? Computer, power supply, and computer chips. There's your iPhone. Power supply, computer chips. What do you think is in here? New Tesla. Power supply, computer chips, oh, there's a motor too. What do you say? Oh, let's have a motor, right? What's going on is everything in the entire world has become a computer in your lifetime. Everything that used to be, there wasn't computers in TVs before, or in phones before, when I was a kid, People thought I was crazy when I said I wanted a computer in my car. I mean, people still think I'm crazy, but for other reasons now. And you know, the reason I'm telling you this is because I think it makes you prescient about the future of almost every industry. The auto industry has just started becoming a computer, right? You guys grew up with computers. You're used to seeing them in almost everything. And there are some places left where computers haven't gone. And so kind of the way I cheat at invention is I look around and say, oh, well, we're having computers gone yet. What would it be like if we put them there, right? Once a computer is there, then I know it's going to have all the problems that we've had with PCs all these years. It wasn't until pretty recently that we got system update on our PCs. You're using the very first phone that ever had system update. There were no ways to fix security flaws. There is no system update in your car right now, except for a Tesla, right? Your next car will have system update, right? That's why I say you're prescient. You can see what's happening because you know everything is going to be a computer. Anybody have a lock like this? Yeah. Well, statistically, they're on like half of the front doors in America. This is a Schlage lock. It's the cheapest one at Home Depot. But whatever, they all work the same. And you guys ever try and pick locks? Awesome! That's what I want to hear. This is a very important skill. And if you have OCD and a lot of free time, you might get good at it. It just takes a lot of work to finick with these tools. For the ADD kids in the house, I'm sure we have some. I'm going to teach you the easy way. Oh, whoops. So this is a Schlage lock, like I have, and like you probably have. And this is a Schlage key, which is the wrong key for the lock, but I modified it. So I could just pop it in there. And I'm going to smack it like this. There we go. So I just picked a lock. That was really easy. There's YouTube videos of 11-year-old girls teaching you how to do this. It's called bump key. And I think you should learn. This is I got a little carried away and I bought a key machine and I made bump keys for all the other locks in America. So if you get locked out, let me know. That's probably the last mechanical thing in your life that you use every day that doesn't have a computer in it, right? Since I'm crazy, as we established, this is the one I use on my front door. Bleep, unlock, bleep, lock, right? Probably only a year or so, and you'll have one. A couple years after that, your parents will use your iPhone to unlock your doors. Keys and mechanical stuff will go away completely. This is important because you guys don't probably remember this, but in the 80s, what we did for software is we wrote some code, put it on a floppy disk, put that in a box, shrink wrap the box, put it on a shelf at a store called Computerland, which doesn't exist anymore, and wait for somebody to buy it. And then they would buy that program, put the floppy disk in their computer, run the program. The box also contained a 3x5 card where you could write, or 5x7 postcard, you could write bugs on, put a stamp on it, stick it in the mail, send it to Adobe or Microsoft or whoever. They would fix the bugs and ship version 2 18 months later. I'm not kidding. This is how we did software. We were excited about this, right? That was very exciting. Writing bugs on postcards. I'm not exaggerating. What do we do now? I dream some shit up. I roll out of bed. Can I cuss on stage? I'm on the board of directors, so I can do whatever I want. So, sorry. Okay, I dream some stuff up. I roll out of bed. I write some code. I launch it at lunchtime. A web app or a mobile app. Get some friends to try it out. They email me pissed off that it doesn't work on their screwy version of Android on their, whatever. I fix some bugs, launch a new version, and go eat dinner, right? That is what we mean when we say rapid iteration, because it takes no time at all to try it, to try something, see if it works, see if it sticks, see if people like it, see if it solves the problem, go back and improve it. That iteration cycle is the fastest with developing web apps and mobile apps of any kind of product development in human history, except for maybe making dinner in a restaurant, right? I get to try it and see how it goes and improve and keep trying. That's an amazing superpower that has changed the world, right? And it's so powerful that what we've now done is we've gone back and tried to figure out how do we turn everything else into software, because that's working out pretty well, right? So back in the 80s, you know, in ancient times, what we did is we had like some programmers who knew all about like how to write code. Then we had like chip designers, and these are like guys who work on logic gates and RAM configurations, and that was really esoteric stuff. They're not programmers, two totally different kind of guys. And you had an electronics engineer. That's the guy who knew how to hook up the power to the chip and make it run. I knew nothing about that stuff, and those are totally different guys with different set of knowledge. And it was all very complicated. If you wanted to make a new gadget, you had to get all of those guys involved, right? And they had a hard time talking to each other because they're engineers with different vocabularies and stuff. So what we figured out is, oh, well, we can get an Arduino and get rid of all those guys, right? So we plug an Arduino into our computer, and now all of the electronics and all the chip stuff and everything else just becomes software. More libraries in my development environment, more Lego bricks for me to connect together, and I can just make stuff. And I can control motors and get sensor input and whatever I got to do. I don't need those guys anymore. I'm on my own, right? Me and some software. So the way that we do things now gives you guys these amazing superpowers. You can just come up with an idea and try it out. One of the big failure modes is that you come up with too big of an idea and you don't know how to break it down into bite-sized tasks that can actually be done and tried and tested, right? If your idea takes 18 months to try, that's insanity. That's literally insanity, and that is what big companies do. If Microsoft makes a product, it takes them 18 months. If Nike makes a product, it takes them 18 months, right? Your job in your lifetime is to kick their ass by doing it faster. And you're going to do that because you grew up with the tools that do these things faster. I don't know what I'm talking about. Moving on. Anybody use these USB switchblades? Thumb drives? Mine's called Switchblade because it's a little like yours. While you're printing my Word document for me, it just magically and invisibly makes a handy little backup of your browser history and cookies and your documents folder and all your passwords. They go in a little invisible folder on here in case you ever need it. I like to print these with logos on them like Cisco and sprinkle them around at tech conferences and see what I get. No, of course I've never done that. You guys know credit cards are totally secure, right? Waitresses can take a pencil rubbing. A few years ago, we started getting these credit cards in the mail with a letter explaining that it was my new secure credit card, which is pretty exciting for me because I don't usually get stuff in the mail that says it's secure. The reason this is supposed to be secure is it has this RFID chip in it. You know, wow, a computer just went into my credit card. What do you think I'm going to do with that? Well, I know a little bit about RFID and how it works, and so I got it kind of excited about this and figured, you know, if we could just, there's probably credit card info that's encrypted on the chip in there, and if we could just crack the crypto, maybe I could steal credit card numbers on weekends for fun. So one of the things I did is I bought a bunch of RFID gear on the internet. So, whoops, hold on. And, you know, anybody here use Python? Yeah. All right. So much better than PowerPoint. Okay. If you got to make a presentation, do it in Python. Okay, so hold on a sec. So one of the things I bought is this reader. I got it for $8 on eBay. It's the same one they have at Starbucks. Anybody have one of these new RFID credit cards? Come on up. So, volunteer, peer pressure, somebody? All right. Here, come on up. Okay,
Yes?
Yeah, okay, put it in your pocket, in your back pocket. Well, I don't know if it's going to read through that. Let's try. Okay, get closer to my reader. Sometimes. All right, get it out. I can't read through all those other cards in your wallet here. Okay.
My metal wallet.
Oh, hold on, I gotta run the code. Hold on, I forgot one thing. This is, hold on, I forgot to run the, all right. This is a lot. Okay. Oh. Okay, something went wrong. So since I'm a hacker, I don't have a QA department, but it says it beeps. Okay, beep. And then I check his mail while he's at work. Okay, all right. Here's what happens. Mark gets, I get the stuff. That's good. Mark gets his bill in the mail from his credit card company and goes, "Oh, I didn't order anything from Victoria's Secret." So he calls his bank. And they say, "Oh, it was fraud? Okay, no problem. Here's your money back." That's what's going to happen after you guys all do this. Okay. Then his bank is going to call Victoria's Secret's bank and say, "Hey, that was fraud. Give us the money back." Okay, no problem. They give him the money back. Victoria's Secret's bank calls Victoria's Secret and says, "Hey, that was fraud. Give us the money back." And they're like, "Damn it, fine." So what happened? Mark didn't lose any money. His bank didn't lose any money. The merchant's bank didn't lose any money. The only person who lost any money is the merchant. Victoria's Secret lost the product they sent me. They lost the money that they didn't actually get paid. They lost the credit card transaction fee that they had to pay, which is usually 2–3%. And then they also lose what's called a chargeback fee, which is a $25 to $35 fee they have to pay for every fraudulent transaction. Billions of dollars a year are being made by the credit card industry on fraud. It's an amazing thing. They do not have a security problem. What they have is a risk management problem. And the risk is managed. And this is a beautiful and amazing thing. As sucky as the credit card industry is, they have figured out something amazing, which is that if you have what you think of as a security problem, try thinking of it as a risk management problem. Maybe you can make it disappear, right? That's why credit cards have never been secure. That's why they're never going to be secure, because they're making money off it. Okay. That was my subliminal marketing campaign. It was supposed to go much faster than that. All right. This is a protocol diagram, right? It's for SSL, which is the encryption system in your web browser. And that's what encrypts your credit card number when I send it to victoriassecret.com. Interesting thing about this is that hackers will attack every point in this protocol or any other protocol, right? That's what we're doing. What happens if I send a date from the future? Or what happens if I send 2 responses instead of 1? What happens if I send a giant response or a 0 when it was expecting a 1? Maybe it'll break. And if it'll break, then maybe I can get it to break in some way, like a way that gives me your password or credit card, right? That's what hackers do. When you're designing something like a protocol like this, you try to make it work. You don't have time to think of all the screwy things that Sammy or Abad might do to it. Perverted stuff. So that's why this never ends, right? This process goes on. It's a game that we play. It's a war of escalation. People build stuff, hackers break it. People build fixes, hackers break those. And we just keep trying, right? But we don't have any ideas for how to make it stop, right? Nobody has any idea how we're ever going to stop playing this game. This is what SSL actually looks like to a hacker. I recommend you learn to read hexadecimal. Very useful skill. This is Anopheles stephensi. She's a female mosquito carrying malaria, and she kills about 1 million people a year. Half of them are kids under 5 years old. And this is what she looks like when she's flying, which is actually a mystery to humans. We don't understand how mosquitoes can fly because their wings are so small. That can't be Bernoulli effect. All kinds of stuff we don't know. This is a protocol diagram for malaria. Spends some of its life cycle in a human, some of its life cycle in a mosquito. It's very complicated. We don't understand everything about how it works. We don't even know what it's supposed to do. So what I do in my lab is I hire hackers to attack every point in this protocol. Right? Some of them are computer hackers, some of them are biologists. But the point is, we've got to have those kinds of minds that figure out, what if I do this? What if I send it a 0 instead of a 1? Right? We've got to try things and discover what's possible. That's how we're going to solve some problems. This is the old-fashioned way of attacking malaria. We spray chemicals that kill everything. And then you hope some of the good stuff comes back. And we teach kids to sing. This is a real ad from like the 30s or 40s. DDT is not really good for you. It's not that bad, but it's not that good for you. So what we do in the lab is we run a 5,000 core machine to render movies. No, to run a, it's the exact same thing. We do a computational model that models the transmission of diseases in Africa. So this is Madagascar, which is like rendering 5 seconds of your 10-minute movie, right? We just get a little bit. And then we feed it data. So the model takes in climate, rainfall, travel of humans, clinical cases of malaria reported, anything that we can get that's data related to the disease, goes into a giant, what's called Monte Carlo simulation. And then it allows us to model into the future what will happen and allows us to test our interventions. So incidentally, if you go to Madagascar, go to the middle. Yeah. And don't go in the rainy season. In the dry season, it goes away almost completely. So what would happen if I spray some DDT here or deploy some bed nets there? Right? I can test that thousands of times in software before I ever do it in the real world. Right? That kind of modeling work is computationally intensive. Von Neumann invented the Monte Carlo simulation and had no hope of ever trying it because computers were too feeble, right? When I was a kid, I had an Apple II. Its capacity in computation is what we call 1 kiloflop, floating point operations per second. I fantasized about getting my hands on a Cray XMP, which was this giant supercomputer. It was an amazing, beautiful thing. 400 megaflops. Imagine what I could do with that. I'll tell you what's in my pocket right now. I am happy to see you, and I have 115 gigaflops in my pocket. I'm not joking or exaggerating one bit. This is some exciting shit right here in your pocket. Right? My whole life I was fantasizing about what would happen if we had computers with more memory and faster processors. Well, now we do, and we don't know what to do with it. I'm telling you guys, it's your job. I'm too old. You have to come up with some idea for what to do with all this surplus of computational ability that we have. Because we're just at the beginning. We're not at the end. We're at the very beginning of figuring out what we can do with computers. In a Monte Carlo simulation like the one I just showed you, you guys have used Photoshop. You have pixels in Photoshop, right? And the computer is keeping track of the color of every pixel. And if you run a Photoshop filter, that's an algorithm that's going to say, okay, we changed the color of this pixel. That's going to have a little bit of effect on the color of the pixels around it. So it has to go compute how much to change each one of those. And in turn, those will affect the next ones out. There's this cascading thing going on. And it's a lot of computation to do that. Right? That's, you probably never noticed this, But Photoshop filters are computationally intensive. Back in the 80s, when I actually beta tested the first version of Photoshop, I would say, click, let's run a filter. And then I would go have lunch and come back, like you do rendering your movies. Now Photoshop is just bam. It's only, what, it's only one frame? Hell, I can do that, right? It's not until you do movies that you start to notice. Anyway, the point is, a Monte Carlo simulation does the same thing, but it's keeping track of, in our case, for every pixel of Africa, what's going on, right? With, like I said, climate, travel of humans, all those things, right? Whatever I can get data on. And I have an unlimited appetite for data. And that's true for almost everybody else in the world now. And we're getting data because of a couple of things. We've got those fast computers that I described. And now we're making sensors, new sensors every day. You've got sensors coming out of every hole in your body. You've got sensors in here, you don't even know why. Why is there an accelerometer in your phone? We shipped accelerometers in the first iPhones because they were just cheap. Before that, an accelerometer was a $10,000 thing that you sat on a bench, and you only ever bought one if you were building a missile because they're so expensive and big and heavy. Well, now we figured out how to make MEMS accelerometers. They're just tiny. And they're so cheap, we just throw them in phones. Every new phone you get has more sensors. Now they have gyros in them. Why do you need a gyro in your phone? I don't know. Well, just put it in there. It's so cheap, right? So we're getting sensors. Sensors that can sense everything in the world. And those sensors are good for one thing, creating a lot of data. Now, data is different than information. Data is just data. Information is after I've sifted through the data and figured out how to make some meaning out of it. Lots of data is crappy data. Almost all of it is crappy. And that's okay, right? The future that you guys are living in is one where, unlike the one that I grew up in, where engineers designed computers and everything else to be perfect and predictable and do what it's supposed to do, that's not what nature does. You're a biological thing, right? Biology is like 99% error correction, right? And like 1%, you know, getting your butt to school in the morning, right? The rest of it is just error correction. You got cells dying off, things going wrong all the time, right? And that's kind of what I mean when I'm talking about big data. We are taking in a massive amount of messy data, and we're going to look for a little bit of useful information in there. Anyway, is there a point? Moving on. I showed you that. So this is my lab. It's called the Intellectual Ventures Lab in Seattle. We basically just bought one of every tool in the world. This is our machine shop. And then we hired one of every kind of scientist. And what we try to do is invent for the bigger problems that humans have made. This is our warehouse. We just, like I said, we bought one of every tool in the world. We have everything there from SEMs to ICBMs. And it's a way of cheating at invention. We went on eBay and we bought one of everything. And that way, when I'm doing a project, I don't have to find a vendor and get a quote, work out a purchase order and all that shipping crap. It's just all here. And that's what I'm looking for, is ways to cheat at invention. Actually, I don't know how much time, what time do I have to finish here?
You're good.
I'm good, okay, because I got a little more. Okay, so this is one of our projects. We got a little carried away working on the science of cooking. And so we cut kitchen tools in half and made these cool photos of cooking processes. And then we published a 2,400-page cookbook on the science of cooking, just because we're crazy. And then we started trying to shoot mosquitoes down with lasers. Because we thought, you know, if those little buggers are carrying malaria and killing people, and we'd rather have people than mosquitoes, so let's try this. So we figured out we can track a mosquito, aim a laser at it, sample their wing beat frequency, and from that we can not only figure out that it's a mosquito, that it's Anopheles defensi, but that it's female. And then we can shoot it down with a lethal laser. Boom! Here's what this looks like. So we lit her up with an ultraviolet laser. She's not coming back. Vaporized her wing off. It turns out, it's okay, you can laugh. You can kill as many mosquitoes as you want, and not even PETA will come to save them. Nobody likes mosquitoes. we hadn't quite tuned our laser, and we vaporized entire bugs. Yeah, this is very satisfying work. Turns out mosquitoes don't represent more than 5% of anyone's food supply, so you can actually kill as many as you want. It's no problem. The idea is that we put a laser, on a fence post every 100 meters or so around a building or a village and shoot down mosquitoes as they fly towards humans to get a blood diet. We eventually figured out we could also protect crops this way. We call it an organic photonic pesticide. So instead of spraying chemicals, we let the harmless bees and butterflies come and do their thing, and we just shoot down the pests. What this means is, again, unprecedented for humans, we're using a computer to compute the value of the life of every individual bug before we shoot it down, right? That's a lot of surplus computation. But we can afford to do that now because you have 115 gigaflops in your pocket. We make this thing out of consumer electronics. We actually bought the parts to build it off eBay, the first one. You know, the laser galvo that's in your laser printer for steering a laser, that's how we steer a laser. We use a CMOS sensor from a video camera to do motion detection algorithms on a GPU like you'd find in a game system to know where to aim the laser. The laser is like something you'd find in a Blu-ray burner, right? This is consumer electronics. It all follows Moore's law on an exponential curve. It gets cheaper every year. So yeah, it might sound preposterous to send lasers to Africa right now, but in a couple more years, probably can afford to do that. This is a cubic mile of oil. So this is how much energy we used to power the entire planet in the year, what did I say, 2000, right? So imagine just a cube that's a mile on a side. That would be, 5 Eiffel Towers tall. That's a lot of oil, right? Well, 14 years later, we use 3.5 cubic miles of oil every year. It's growing demand. It's really important when you want to go after a problem to just step back and do a little bit of arithmetic. Not hard math, just the easy plussing and minusing involved in adding up what the scale of the problem is, right? This is a pretty large scale problem. Now we imagine reducing our energy consumption. We don't have any good evidence that that's going to happen, but we just imagine that we're going to do it. And if we imagine, then we only need another 1.5 cubic miles of oil per year by the year 2035, so in another 20 years. I don't know why anyone thinks that that's all we need, but this is what all the experts say, probably because they would feel really embarrassed if they admitted how much more it is than that, but we'll pretend. Okay, now at some point, it's going to get harder to find oil, right? We almost ran out when you guys were kids, and we got really excited about, oh shit, we're running out of oil. And so we started looking at alternative energies. And then what happened is we got this amazing miracle. And the miracle was fracking. And now that we got fracking, America gets to be #1 again for the rest of my life, because we got enough access to oil that we'll be rich until I'm dead. We will not probably be rich until you're dead. It's just warning. So what's going to happen at some point is we're even going to run out of oil we can get via fracking. And that means we have to come up with alternatives to replace oil for another 4 to 5 cubic miles per year. So what are the alternatives? Well, you've heard of solar and wind and things like that. This is pretty interesting because it looks like free energy. All I got to do is pop up a windmill and I get free energy. That seems really smart. So those are the biggest turbines humans make right now. And if I take the largest turbines and I cover all of what we call the flyover states, anybody been there? Am I missing out? What's going on there? Smells like Hitler. Okay, I haven't heard that one before. So say I deploy all those windmills, I get 1 cubic mile of oil, right? And maybe it'd even smell better, I don't know. The point being, what am I going to do then? Get another one on these states? Or those states? At some point, I just run out of places to put windmills, right? This is not a solution that scales accordingly or in proportion with the scale of the problem. So it's okay, work on it. Maybe we can make it better. Maybe we can offset a little bit of it, but we can't stop there. We have to keep trying. This can, the size of a Diet Pepsi, contains depleted uranium. It contains 1.8 million times as much energy as oil in that can would. That's how much energy is in uranium. One can is equal to $12 million of gas if you pump it at the station, right? That's a lot of energy. So what happens today is we take that uranium, we run it through a complicated enrichment process that makes it into a fissionable fuel, like enriched uranium. And we burn it in the nuclear reactors that we have. And we create a whole lot of waste. This stuff, we put it in stainless steel casks. They sit on the surface of the Earth. And we just stockpile them onto the horizon. That's all depleted uranium. We just store that stuff. We don't have any idea what to do with it. Interesting thing about it is we're only getting 0.7% of the energy out. That's right. The end-to-end fuel cycle for today's reactors is only 0.7% efficient. That's pretty dismal. I mean, it's still so much energy that it's worth it for us, but the rest of all this is in the stockpile. So we designed a new type of nuclear reactor that's powered by nuclear waste. So the idea is that, well, here, let's look at neutron bombardment for a minute. What you got to do is you got to take U-238 and turn it into U-235, which is fissionable. And that's something that can sustain a fission reaction, right? Now, in our reactor, the way we set this up is we take that green stuff as depleted uranium. We light it up with like what you could think of as a fuse at one end. And it creates this leading wave that enriches fuel, and a second wave that burns the fuel inside the reactor. And it burns from one end to the other over the course of 60 years in this design, right? So I can shut down my enrichment program. I get more like 20% of the energy out in one pass. And I have a modern, safe reactor with no moving parts. You know, today's reactors were designed a long time ago by guys with slide rules and pencils. And they were super smart, but they didn't have 115 gigaflops in their pocket. We can do better now. We run a Monte Carlo simulation that simulates neutron bombardment. We see what happens to every neutron in the reactor before we build it. Our team is made up of crusty old guys that we pulled out of retirement that were like interns on the first generation of reactors 50 years ago, right? The other half of the team is your age, and they just got out of college, and they're like, cool, reactors, nice, I'll do it, right? There's nobody in the middle because we haven't been trying. Nuclear got politically unpopular. This is the only way that we can really meet the demand of power that humans have, right? This is a stockpile in Kentucky, 700,000 metric tons of depleted uranium sitting on the surface of the Earth. In our reactors, with just that one stockpile, we could power the entire planet, including growth, for about 1,000 years. I don't even have to dig up more uranium, don't have to mine any oil or coal, and it's carbon-free. Pretty good deal, right? We keep imagining, what if we had an energy miracle? Well, we kind of have one. We've got 1,000 years to come up with a better plan. So we're developing that right now. Remember these guys? The 99%? Complaining about how rough it is? See if you can find yourself on this chart. I'm guessing you're around here somewhere. Okay. So if you're the worst off American, You're still in the top 14% globally. That's not so bad. You guys are amazing. You're like evolutionary lottery winners, for one, because you get to be human, which is about as good as it gets for a mammal. Like, humans, like, right on top. We got it good. Not a lot of predators, except for other humans. Then you're like a socioeconomic lottery winner, because you got to be American. Even if you're a, college student with no money, you're an American, or at least in America. That's pretty good, as it goes. So we could nitpick and try and win a third lottery, or maybe we could kick back and say, oh, maybe it's not so bad, right? This woman's loading vaccines into a styrofoam cooler. She's going to truck them across into the bush in Africa, inject kids with vaccines. They're not going to stay cold enough long enough. Probably 20 to 50% of those vaccinations will fail. We don't know they went bad. We would go ahead and inject kids anyway. So we invented this thing. It's a kind of super thermos. You can load vaccines in here, stick it in the sunshine, in the Sahara, with no external power. Come back 6 months later and your vaccines will still be cold. It was not that hard to do. We just looked at it from a fundamental perspective and figured out, oh, we can make a really good thermos. This thing, not a good thermos. Not 6 months, 4 hours. That's how long it keeps your beer cold. If you have an iPhone, going back to my previous point, the cost of an iPhone is equivalent to how much the median family on this planet makes in a year. Global median income for a family is the same as the cost of one iPhone, right? That's how rich you are, even though you're a poor college student, right? So one of the things that you will get a lot in your career coming out of here, and especially working on new projects, is this idea called scratch an itch. Scratch an itch means find some problem that you have and work on fixing that, because probably somebody else has that same problem and you will have made a product that people want, right? That's a really good way of getting good at making products and practicing skills and things. But fundamentally, I don't have real problems, right? I'm the same as you guys. You don't have actual problems of your own, right? You got some nitpicky little problems here and there. Fine. The real problems in the world are not held by you or your friends. They're held by people who do not have iPhones yet, right? It's okay. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. It's awesome that you have an iPhone. That's important, because part of what you're doing is making an early market. You're going to help us figure out how we can make these things cheap enough that everybody in the world can eventually have them, right? That's okay. That's what we do in America. That's what we do on the West Coast. That's what we do in Silicon Valley in particular. We're early adopters, and we try to make these technologies work so that we can eventually have them impact a greater society, right? That's our job. That's what we get to do in life, and that's why it's okay that you're rich, even being poor. And what I think it means for you and me, though, is that this is kind of like practice. You're in college right now, so you're practicing skills, doing fake projects that are going to go in the trash, which is sad. But hopefully it will make you good enough that you can then go on to work on real projects that somebody will appreciate, right? That's basic trajectory. That's totally cool. That's okay. The world is investing in you, right? Your parents are investing in you. Society is investing in you. They've also invested in me. The world spent way more than they should have on me. I've blown a lot of money in my life on crazy projects that didn't pan out. Those were practice. Even some of the ones that did pan out are practice, because, and the reason I say it's practice is it means at some point, and I'm not saying when, in your life, I hope that you will turn your talents and skills and experience towards solving a problem that is not your own, right? It's harder to go and internalize what problem someone in Africa has, but it's vastly more important. So that's what I want you to remember, right? If you go on in your life, you get as much time and all the grace you need to learn and to practice and to figure out how it's going to work for you. I'm not telling you how to do that. I'm just saying at some point, what we're trying to do is solve problems for humanity as a whole. I'm going to skip this because, you know, it's just more of the same crap. Can you give us a brief overview? Okay. All right, sorry. Yeah, okay, fine. I'll do it. I don't know how much time I have. All right, so this is a pipe organ. When your grandparents were on MySpace, the way they listened to music was not with an iPod. It was in church with a pipe organ. And what's going on in a pipe organ is every one of these antennas, these pipes, each one is an antenna. And it resonates at a certain frequency, right? You pump air through it and it resonates at a frequency. Big pipes are low frequency antennas. Little ones are high frequency antennas. You got that, right? Everybody knows how a pipe organ works now. Well, that's not how we make music. None of the music you listen to, I'm willing to bet, comes from a pipe organ. It comes from something like this. Guess what's inside that synthesizer? You dumb shits. How about a power supply and computer chips? Okay. Attention deficit disorder. Documented for posterity. Okay. Power supply and computer chips. What we did is we figured out how to make computer chips simulate the waveform of those antennas, those pipes, right? And while we're at it, we can simulate any other waveform, right? So we're synthesizing sounds using computers. And we got rid of pipe organs at an amazing clip. The piano industry is on Moore's law curve. Like it's almost gone. Amazing, huh? Right, because now you got, we don't even use synthesizers. We just use samplers and just modify some other sound. Like we don't even know where the sounds came from originally anymore. If you have a yacht, it might have a dome on top like this. Inside of there is a satellite dish so that it can steer and aim at a satellite. That's how a yacht gets on the internet, right? This is the Reaper drone. So inside a drone, same thing. That's why it has that bullfrog shape. There's a physically steerable dish in there so that it can talk to satellites so that kids in Nevada can control it with a joystick. So what we looked at, we've been working in a new area in science called metamaterials. And this is basically materials that don't exist in nature, but that we can manufacture that give us cool new superpowers, right? Think of this as a digital antenna, right? I've made a flat panel here that can electronically steer a beam to track a satellite. I can stick that on the roof of a car or a boat or a plane, and it can track a satellite and get high-speed internet. Now, that's kind of cool, but why it matters is that every satellite we put up now has more wireless communication capacity than the entire network did last year. We have an obscene amount of wireless communication capacity in what are called low Earth orbit satellites, and they're whizzing by overhead. The only way to talk to them is to steer a beam. And nobody else has any idea how to do that except by steering a dish. So we made this antenna. Why that's important is that the way that we scale wireless now is by digging up the road, putting in fiber optic cables, terminating at a cell tower. The cell tower has antennas that broadcast noise in every direction. Your phone is like fast when you get on the new 4G or 5G or 6G network for like 2 weeks. And then everybody else signs up. And then it's slow again, right? That's because we have a fixed amount of spectrum, wireless spectrum. And neither God nor Isaac Newton has made any new spectrum lately. So we're stuck with what we've got. And the only thing we can do is deploy more towers. And that means digging up the road and doing a bunch of legal crap to get licenses for putting up towers on buildings and stuff. So with this antenna, I can get one and stick it on the roof of a building and it can talk to satellites. I can put another one on the side of the building with duct tape and it can aim a beam at you and you and you and you and reuse the same spectrum. And we can get gigabit wireless to everyone on the planet this way. That's a really important problem to solve. Why? Find yourself on this map. I'm guessing you're in one of the lit up spots. This is where the internet is right now. You can almost see that there's a continent here with more people than exist in America, right? Even India, high-tech country. Asia, what the heck? Right? Video games. Okay. The point being, it's cool, that's fine, don't feel bad. But our job as humans, if we're going to be cool, is to get them on too, right? And it's hard and expensive, and we're going to try and solve that problem. Do I have like another 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes? Okay, yeah, 10 hours. I got 2 more things I want to show you. So this is a project I worked on called MakerBot. You guys have MakerBots here? No? Yeah, maybe? Okay. Well, anyways, 3D printer. So this is an exciting thing. People are excited about MakerBot, but we don't quite know why. When I was a kid, I got an Apple II computer, which was kind of the first computer you could get and stick in your house. And nobody had any idea why I would want a computer. And I didn't even know. I just thought it was interesting and cool. And what we did is we tried to figure out ways to explain to normal people why they would want a computer. And we didn't really have any good ideas for a long time. Until the spreadsheet was invented. And once we had a spreadsheet, then we could show people, see, this is why you need a computer. That's called the killer app. And once we had a spreadsheet, everybody in the world wanted a computer. Because what they were doing before a spreadsheet was a ledger book, and it was a pain in the ass. For 3D printers, we don't yet have a killer app, which is an amazing thing. Because we're excited about them, and it seems like fun, and it's kind of cool, and we have lots of ideas. With MakerBot, we made a website called Thingiverse. And people upload their own designs to Thingiverse. And there's hundreds of thousands of designs on Thingiverse. We've only sold, I don't know exactly, but like 50,000 MakerBots, which is a lot, but there's more designs than there are printers. That's called long tail. The long tail for 3D printing is really long, and we don't know what the killer app is, which is an exciting thing because you guys get to help figure that out. At some point, we will find it. I kind of love that we don't know. But why I'm working on this is that I think that in the future, we could make a kind of programmable factory, right? The way that we make things now is we have Chinese girls with their fingertips assembling stuff. And then they put it on a barge, and it comes to America, and you buy it at the Apple Store, which is awesome. Great, that's working great. The problem is that unless we're going to make hundreds of thousands of the identical thing, the economics don't work out. So we have to make things in a large scale that are identical. If we do that, then we can kind of cut back on factory girls and augment them with what's called what I call a special purpose robot, or a factory automation tool. So I make a big tool that makes iPhone 4 cases or bodies or something, and I make hundreds of thousands of them identically, and I amortize the cost of my $1 million tool over all those machines, all those devices. And then when it comes time to make iPhone 5, I throw out that $1 million tool, and I make a new $1 million tool for iPhone 5. And I make 1 million iPhones with it, and cool tooling cost ends up being $1 a unit, something like that. That's how we manufacture stuff. But what we fantasize about, what we have been fantasizing about and trying to do over your life, is do a better job of making those factory robots so we can use fewer and fewer factory girls. And there's a practical limit to how far we can get with that. The factory we're imagining is a factory full of general purpose robots, like a 3D printer, where you could dream something up, roll out of bed, draw it in CAD, click print, and the thing would make it for you. And it could make your glasses, or it could make your shoes, and the only difference is programming. No factory girls involved, right? Now, we may never get there. There's a whole lot of complicated things going on in factories, so we may never get there completely. But I try to invent in those two gaps. How do I invent special purpose robots and close this gap? And how do I invent general purpose robots and close this gap, right? That's what we're trying to do so that we can move manufacturing out of China and Bangladesh and places where it's super cheap to exploit factory girls. I want to just put them out of business altogether and replace them with robots, right? So anyway, what I think about it is that this is a good analogy for how we might manufacture stuff and how we could do it in America, and we could do shorter runs, and we could increase mass customization, and we could do things that, that are closer to your imagination, right? So as a way of, so I've been working on a bite-sized kind of project to experiment with this. And I need your help with this a little bit. So I'm going to show you, I don't know if this works here, what I've been working on. We made this video which sort of explains it. Just starting very small. We can only make one product right now, which is these spandex leggings. But they're printed on printers. And what we do is we don't make any inventory. So we want to be able to make a product in quantity of 1 instead of 100,000, right? And if we can do that for one thing, maybe we can do it for more things. So I set up a factory in Seattle with machines that can print on fabric and drop things in the mail. But I need designs, and that's what I want those Chinese factory girls doing. Instead of assembling and sewing, I want them using their brains. But what we did is we set up a website where any artist can make designs, and so I have some graphic artists in this audience. If you would help me out, make some designs. We don't have enough designs right now, but the idea is anybody could make a design, and then you get paid if somebody buys it. But that's a way for me to play with that factory of the future, right? It's a bite-sized version of it, and I do that project exactly the way that you guys do Project X, right? I got a team of about 15 people that we all work on it part-time in our spare time, and we made this little company, and now we have ability to make this product, which is pretty cool. And if we can succeed at that, then you could imagine over time we can adapt our machines to make more and more first clothes and then maybe other kinds of products. So anyway, the last thing I want to say is that I came here because, and I joined the board here because I'm excited about figuring out how do we make your experience in college relevant to the world. I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree in anything. In fact, I can't get any job. There's no job I'm qualified to get now that I think about it. I don't even have a resume. But the point is, you guys can do better than me. But the point is there's a lot of possibility around you, and when you get out of school, we need you. And I don't want people coming out of here with a fake set of skills, an irrelevant set of ideas about what they can and can't do, or what is worthwhile to do or not, right? We need to solve that problem. When I look around, when I hire a lot of people, I hire people with PhDs and I fire them again because they're useless, because they didn't learn how to work on a team. They didn't learn how to do something useful with their time, right? They didn't do anything real in college. So what we're trying to figure out here is how to make it really valuable for you guys. And I want to hear from, I'm going to be around the rest of the day, but I'll be around over the course of years, and you guys should feel free to get in touch with me to talk about this, because it's important that your time here is spent learning to make yourself useful. I want to describe one thing about that, which is that when we hire now in the high-tech industry, what a lot of companies believe in, and or at least where I hang out, is we look for what we call T-shaped individuals. Anybody ever heard this before? What that means is the person is experienced in something. They're specialized in something. For me, that happened to be computers. But they have learned to work as a generalist across a bunch of different disciplines and different areas, right? It's really hard for me to put somebody to use if they're only specialized or if they're only generalized, okay? Now is your chance to specialize. Now is your chance to go get some skills, get really good, and go as deep as you can into one thing. But probably, if you look over the course of your career and over time, you're going to be valued more for your ability to take that and relate it to other areas. Because I got good at one thing, I don't even work on computer hacking these days, but because I got good at that, when I encounter a biologist or a chemist or a nuclear physicist, I can appreciate them for their experience, and I understand what it means for them to be deeply specialized in what they know. When I try to hire people and they say, I could do anything, I cannot hire that person. I cannot hire, even if it's true, I can't hire somebody who can do anything. Because if I'm hiring somebody, what I need to know is this the person who's going to take care of this problem that I have, right? I have this stuff that either I can't do because I don't have time, or because I think I'm too good for it, or because it's not, whatever. It's the crap job. Who knows? That's what I'm hiring for. Nobody's going to hire you to do the exciting, fun, and creative job. Like, that job doesn't exist on Craigslist, right? Nobody advertises for that job because that's the one they want to keep for themselves. You've got to get in there, do the crap job, and then work your way into their job once you poison them. Okay? So I'm just saying, just to give you a clear framework to think about your time here, learn something deeply. Even if it's not what you do the rest of your life, that's fine. It will make you more valuable. It will make you better at being able to relate to people and work across other disciplines. So that's what I think. I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about your projects. I want to talk to you guys about all the things I showed you today. Any of that, feel free to flag me down and let's do that. So I'm going to let you go, though. I think there's probably classes or something important to do.
Hello. Did anyone have any questions? Did anyone have any questions that they wanted to ask?
Oh, I assumed we were out of time. But yeah, we can do that.
If anyone wants to ask any questions? No?
Hey.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.